Hello? Yep. So I think that should be working. I'll move that out of the way. Can you see it now? Yeah, so I've restarted it again, and it says live now. So I need just to recheck that it's working. This is probably good because the candidate can actually see themselves now in the screen, so they know where they're standing for the camera. Not there? It should still be there, but back on again. I've just restarted that one. A while to get going. Right, can you hear me? Can you hear me on that? Oh yes, the delay. Great, that's working. I'll just leave that like that now. I'm not going to mess around with it anymore. It's working. Excellent. All right. Yep. That works. Microphone works. So they can pick up the microphone, can't they? But they have to leave it in the stand. Because it looks like on this microphone you've got to talk right into it to get any kind of sound. No, but that's the microphone not connected to the computer. So, yeah. So I was just checking that this actually, you have to talk like that to make it work. But that's fine, I'll just work it out. Okay, I'm going to crack it too. I'll just leave that going. If there's any issues, just text me. If it's not working, I'll work it out. Okay. Yes, it's about to say. They set that up there. So when you're talking, you'll see here, when you're talking, that's what's being recorded. So just make sure you can be
How
seen.
horrible.
Oh, me?
No, I don't want to be. I don't want to have myself on.
Got news for you.
You're public figure.
Yeah. Nevertheless, it's very unnerving to. So if that's going to be there, how are we going to speak to
Do
it?
they take that in their hand?
No.
Yeah, we can make this smaller. This doesn't have to be so big. Apologies.
That would be easier, wouldn't it? To have it in your hand.
It needs to be spoken right into this one.
Yes.
That's the only thing. So we can move it. Everyone's height's going to make a difference. Let's leave that.
I think this needs.
So that needs to come.
So that then would be this, I think, wouldn't it? That's it. Goes clockwise.
And that can just go out then.
Yeah.
There or something.
Yeah. Okay. So you want us to stand back here?
Anywhere, just like you
Yeah.
can stand here and just speak into that.
Yeah.
It's just if it's just a camera, you don't actually know where's being. That's too high there.
I've got the top. You do the
There we
bottom.
go. That should be better.
Wonderful. No, it's going to drop.
Is that good?
No, it's going to drop.
Let it go even more.
Oh, okay.
Is that right?
Yep.
That's right, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're going to be up here, which
Yeah.
means we have to walk. Yep, to it. That's okay. Shall we dance?
Sorry.
Shall we dance? Dance floor. Okay.
That all sound good?
Yep.
Me. No. You don't have any. start? You're going to use the screen? No. We haven't gone up there. Okay. Yeah, so we'll just wing it. Yeah, that's probably better. Now, I think 6:30 we said, so we'll give it a couple of minutes.
So now we're doing an intro and
Yeah,
finish.
so what we're doing is we're making some candidates 5 minutes ago. Policies. And then questions with 1 minute per question. And then finish when we get 2 minutes. Five, what's it? 5, yes, yeah. Okay, we'll start now.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll start now. Hello. Hello. Hi everyone, thanks for attending today. My name's Mert Ahmed, I'm one of the local doctors in the community here, and I'm here on behalf of the Hastings Residents Association today to host the Meet the Candidates meeting for the upcoming council election. So again, thanks for coming, and I'll just briefly explain the format for tonight. So initially, we have the parties here, which I'll introduce, and we're just going to allow each party a total of 5 minutes just to come up, introduce their individual members, and also give a brief outline of their general policies. Then we'll move on to the questions, which will be, which we have submitted questions already, which we'll be presenting, which is submitted by the community. And each group will have 1 minute to come up and give their answer to the question. And then I'll introduce each group to do that. We'll go through all the questions, and hopefully if we've got some time, we'll aim to get some questions from the floor as well. And then after that, towards the end, we'll just have a 2 minute roundup from each group just to, again, conclude things for the evening. Okay, so I'll just start by just inviting up the teams one by one just to introduce themselves. So this event is live streamed on YouTube and will be saved and available to watch after this event. So due to COVID restrictions and things of allowing people out, this seems to be the way we're moving now, and it's a good opportunity, I think, for getting people to sit back and watch in their own time, because people can watch from all over the Hastings region. Okay, so just to let you know, everything you say will be recorded and then and kept. So I just hope you're comfortable with that. So I'll just start by introducing. So we've got the teams available here tonight. We've got Team Shepherd, and I'll allow each person to announce their individual members. We've got the Greens. Okay. We've got John Bailey. Not quite a team, but is an independent. And then we've got Team Hastings first. Okay. Team Fighters for our region. Yeah. And Stephen Gates. Great. Okay. So I'll start by inviting up Team Shepherd.
Hello, can you hear me? Wonderful. I do just want to take a brief moment to acknowledge that here we are in Biripi country gathering and to pay my respects to the elders past, present and future, and just acknowledge that our local Indigenous community invites us to put our roots down here and care for this land the way that they have, and our roots will be joining with theirs into the future. So my name is Rachel Shepherd, and I'm running as an independent candidate for Mayor, and at the head of a ticket for Sensible Sustainable Progress with Greg Freeman, who is not here tonight, Linda Elborn, who is here tonight, and Ethan Francis, who is also here tonight. So I am daughter to Glenn and Kathy Shepherd. I am mother to Lilith, somewhere here. I am the oldest of 4 sisters. I'm wife to Jake Wadsworth. And I'm a psychologist, an active community member. I'm an advocate for climate action, and I'm someone who's willing to throw my hat in the ring to try and give something to our community that's a bit different to what we've got now. I'm incredibly passionate about having an informed and engaged community who has the capacity to hold our leaders to account because they know what's going on. And there's a big divide that's developed over time. And I think we can understand that perhaps both our community and our leaders have contributed to that over time. But we still need to find some common ground and work out how to step forward together. And we need people in council who have the ability to disagree, debate, and come together really respectfully for the betterment of all of our community. So we're standing for sensible, sustainable progress for our community. And absolutely, these principles of accountable leadership underlie how we're working. But what sensible, sustainable progress means is that when we're thinking about the future of our community, we're making sure that we're planning our infrastructure to keep up with population growth, while also making sure we're not damaging our environment for future generations. We're making sure we're planning our economy to be robust and thriving, resilient in the conditions ahead, and make sure it includes all of our community along the way. And so with that said, I'm going to give you an introduction to Greg very briefly and then hand over to Linda and Ethan. And I'm incredibly humbled to be joined by such valuable people and community members. So Greg, very much missing him tonight. He's a really strong presence. He's raised four kids in Port Macquarie. He's a businessman. He's been running an environmental consultancy for about 25 years in Port Macquarie. He's on the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce in Port Macquarie, in the business chambers. He's a bike rider. He's a really active community member, and I'm really pleased to have him on the team. And I'll hand over to Linda and Ethan to introduce themselves.
I'm a bit taller than Rachel, so hopefully you can hear me. My name's Linda Elborn. I've lived in the Hastings and the surrounding areas for the past 26 years. I get the joy of following Rachel with all those tags, so I'm going to try and keep up. I'm also a mum. I'm a nan. I'm Vice President of the Port Macquarie Chamber of Commerce. And probably only recently I can say I'm a community member, Because while I've lived in the community for the last 26 years, I'm not sure that I really participated. I think I lived here and I got my kids through school. They went to Camden Haven High and I went along in the journey. I worked in a corporate bubble, did a lot of leadership work, management work. And then around 4 years ago, I joined the board of the Willing and Able Foundation. And I think it was my first real step into community and what community was all about. So for the last 4 years, I've been working and learning in the disability space. So I'm very involved with the foundation. Being vice president on the Port Chamber has also allowed me to get, I guess, a better understanding and really get to know what makes local business work and what they need. So I'm running on the Team Shepherd ticket, and like Rachel, I'm, I guess, prepared to put my hat in the ring, because I think that if you want to make change, then you need to be involved in it, and we certainly need some change, so that's what we're all about.
Please, members and guests, closing at 7:30 tonight. If you wish to make a meal purchase and haven't already done so, please make your way there now.
Make sure you get your drinks, people. My name's Ethan Francis. I've lived in Port Macquarie since I was 15, and I am currently completing a degree at CSU, Environmental Science and Management. I am running for council on Team Shepherd because I am passionate about the environment, passionate about our community, and I'm passionate about community engagement. I believe that with making good choices comes with engagement from all aspects of the community. I'm just happy to be here. So thanks for attending.
Yeah, thanks to that. Oh, thanks there to Team Shepherd. So next we'd have the Greens.
Set up.
Yep.
A little bit shorter. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. Lauren Edwards, running on the Greens ticket for the Port Macquarie Hastings Greens. I've lived in the area for, it made me calculate listening to Linda, I was like, 23 years I've been here. As a community member, I've raised a daughter here, lived, worked and volunteered in the community. I'm a small business owner, and yeah, certainly very passionate about a lot of our community groups and committees that are out there all the time advocating for good change. I'm very proud to be on the ticket with these folks next to me. We're running on the platform of wanting to improve our biodiversity and sort of protect our native natural spaces. We want to improve affordable housing and social housing. We want to address climate change at the local government level, and we want to see active transport. We want to solve a lot of the transport issues that we're having, and you know, be greener, be friendlier, be more environmentally sustainable. So I'll hand over to Stuart. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Stuart Watson. I'm second on the ticket and proud member of the Greens, and honoured to be with this group of three other capable people. In 1974, I moved to the area, moved to Balangri, and I've had 3 kids who went to Beechwood School and to Warhope High School. I've got 5 grandchildren, 3 of them live in Port Macquarie. I've been involved in the community ever since. I'm a foundation member of the Hastings Valley Motorcycle Club, 2 AFM foundation member, a past member of the Mountain Bike Club, a current member of the Port Macquarie Yacht Club, foundation member of Climate Change Australia, and a foundation member of the local energy group, Energy Forever. I worked for Essential Energy for 25 years, and for the last 10 years I've run Warhope Solar, and now I run a small business consultancy in renewable energy. I'm passionately committed to acting on climate change. We're now living with human-induced climate change. The effects that have been predicted for years by climate scientists. We owe it to our children and all species to act decisively and immediately to limit the damage. We have the skills and the inventiveness to find the needed solutions, and now we're even being pushed by our own school children to lift our game. Local government is where the rubber hits the road with acting on climate change, and I believe now is the time to act with Greens in council, like the other many councils around New South Wales that are getting positive action from Greens members in councils. And I implore you to think about getting a Green on council in Port Macquarie. Thank you.
Hello everyone, thanks for coming. My name's Drusy Meggett. This is the third time I've stood as a Green for council. I've been a Green since 2001. I came to Port Macquarie with my family in 1994. You may notice a New Zealand accent. I'm obstinate. I arrived here in Australia in 1979. So I've lived in Australia far longer than I lived in New Zealand. My family, I've got 2 children who did all their schooling in Port Macquarie. I was a TAFE teacher in Port Macquarie. Before that, I was a high school teacher in maths and science, and in Sydney, I was an analyst programmer. I've always loved nature, and we have to look after it now because it's in real danger, and it's unbelievable that even on the ABC News these days they say, now the koala is in danger of extinction. Like, how can we let this happen? The environment is my passion. Climate change is far more important than COVID. You know, COVID. Well, bloody climate change is more important because that may send us to the wall. The Greens are a great party to belong to. Social justice is important, and we think we can do something about affordable housing. If it's necessary to do something about affordable housing, everyone else has been ignoring it. Unbelievable, because just accentuates inequality and lack of opportunity. These things should not be allowed to happen. And I'll now hand over to Les Mitchell. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Les Mitchell. I feel very privileged to be standing for the Greens with these 3 other wonderful people who are very committed in their various ways to ensuring that we have a council that is both accountable, that focuses very much on sustainability, and sees a very bright future for people at Port Macquarie, Hastings. I have a background in natural resource management, an academic qualification.
Sorry, just about 30 seconds.
We only left for 30 seconds left, sorry.
I've only been in Port Macquarie for 4 years. I retired here. I had 26 years with National Parks and Wildlife Service. I'm heavily involved in conservation groups in Port Macquarie. I'm president of Port Macquarie Landcare, conservation officer for the Hastings Birdwatchers, a member of Climate Change Australia. I'm passionate about seeing that our natural areas around Port Macquarie are adequately protected, and Council has a big role to play in that regard. And I'll be working hard with our Greens team to ensure that we improve the quality of our natural environment and make sure it's maintained for the future. Thank you.
So thanks to the Greens. And John Bailey.
Hi, my name's John Bailey. I've been in the Hastings for over 40 years. Met and married a local girl. Clocked up 34 years last September. 2 adult children, born, raised, educated in the Hastings. Just quickly, I've been involved in sport the entire time I've been here, coaching, playing, refereeing. Met a lot of great people along the way, made some lifelong friends. The reason I'm running is because I think our infrastructure is probably around a decade or more behind where it should be with our population growth. Our road network is way behind, our sporting facilities. So that's some of the things that I'm running on. Over the 40 years, I've seen councillors come and go, councillors sacked, years of administration where our region was just left floundering and nothing done at all. And I think the current council is a little bit disconnected with the community. And I think that's what council should be all about. Council should be all about community. It's as grassroots as you get. Community connection, listening to the community. And I just think our community deserves better. We've got a great community right across the Hastings. In my job as a news cameraman, I've been that for 36 years. And that affords me the opportunity to travel our region every day and connect with untold community groups, lots of people, issues, council issues, state, federal, and I just think our community needs a better table of people that is cohesive, moving in the one direction, and we need to get things started and in a positive and a community way. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Scott, Hastings first.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out tonight to Laurieton United. We certainly appreciate your support and enthusiasm for well, let's hope a new council with new members, new fresh blood. Hastings first, by the way. It's all about unity, transparency, and getting things done. It's something that the council, we feel, has lacked for a long time now, so now's the time to make the change. By the way, my name is Nick, or Nico, often referred to as Nick James, in the media for the past 30 years. However, I haven't used my last name very often, which, European background, my name is Lipovac. So when you get to the polling booth and you look at your ballot paper, have a look for Lipovac. It's like a European version of Smith, so you'll find it anyway. It'll be easy to find. There's 5 of us, very community-minded, very passionate about making sure we get things done properly in the Hastings region. So my 18 years in the Port Hastings area, 11 of those years were at 2MCFM working alongside Strawny. I coordinated and drove the Give Me 5 for Kids campaign for the first 10 years, raised almost $500,000 for the paediatric sections at the Port and Wauchope hospitals. I then had 3 years at Holiday Coast Credit Union with Neville Parsons, where I did a lot of community engagement work, and the past 4 years back into radio at Radio 531 with John O'Callaghan. So it's been a fairly hectic time. Married, a couple of adult kids, aged 20 and 17. I've been heavily involved in the local sporting scene, mainly cricket and football over about 18 years. Inside that, I was a club secretary for 10 years. I was association president for the Hastings for a good 12-month period, which was quite hectic because I came in at a time where there was no unity. There was a lot of fighting going on between the clubs. We sorted that out. I did the job, and then I moved on. And that's what we're looking at in terms of what Port Hastings Council needs moving forward. I was part of the Oxley Oval Clubhouse Committee. That was a project that was sitting around for 10 years. Half a dozen of us got together and made that happen within 2 years, along with state and federal funding. And I also know how frustrating council can be to work with when you try and get a public amenity up and running like that. There were a number of delays. I've also been on the Mayor's Sporting Fund for a number of years, where we give financial assistance to up-and-coming sports people from the Hastings region. So we're all about being your voice for your community, for your future, and that's where we would like to see you guys when you get to the ballot box. Tick one above the line. You won't see Hastings first, but you will see our names: Lipovac, Fox, Leonard, Clark and Hardy. So I'll introduce you to the team. 30 plus years business experience. This is Kerry Fox.
Thanks, Nick.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming. As Nick said, I've been around in the business world for 30 odd years, and that brings with it a lot of experience in how to deal with people, how to deal with communities, how to deal with lots of different stakeholders. But let's face it, you're not here tonight to hear about me. You're here tonight because you want to see a point of difference and who's actually going to do something for you in the next term in council. You want to be able to trust those people who are going to listen to you. You want to be able to know that they understand what your local issues are, take it to the council table and get some outcomes for you. Let's face it, local economy matters, our koalas matter, sustainability matters, community matters, connections matter, our local business more than ever matters right now because of COVID, and housing matters. So at the heart of it, Hastings matters. So we've got to make a few changes here and make sure that our community is looked after over the next few years and the investments are made that are going to make our community better. So thank you for listening, and I'll hand over to Michael Clark, who is our next person.
Thanks, Kerry. My name's Michael Clark, not the cricketer. Now, I've spent 30 years in the Hastings region. My background's actually business banking and training by background. I'm out of the old State Bank or Rural Bank of New South Wales, which some of you might remember. I've spent, as I said, 30 years in this region. I've also spent some time on the old Hastings Business Enterprise Centre Board of Directors back in the 90s and the 2000s. I'm fairly closely connected to business analysis and financial analysis, so that's where my skills lie. I've spent a lot of time across a number of different industries talking to business people over the 30 years that I've been here, and I've learned to understand how they operate, how they get along. So I've also been on the board of directors of the Warhope Soccer Club. I've been president there and a player. I've also been a coach and spent numerous other capacities with that club. Basically, my intention is to bring integrity to the council, to be very transparent to, and to make sure that we're looking at issues by issue in a very independent fashion and, as I said, very transparent. I'll leave it at that and I'll hand over to Justin. Thank you.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Justin Hardy. I'm relatively new to the area. I've been here since 2017, so I guess that means I'll never be a local, but I want to be part of this community. I've got a very young family, and we moved to this region principally because of the amenity that's here, but also the economic opportunities that this region has. You know, we're kind of sandwiched halfway between Sydney and Brisbane, and that offers a lot of opportunities for this community, especially after COVID. There's plenty of people migrating here who realise they don't have to live in the big city anymore. They can live somewhere that's got the right environment. And with that influx of migration, we need to ensure that the community is building infrastructure that can handle the people that are migrating to this region. The team that I stand here before you tonight has a very diverse background, and we believe that will bring capable skills in the management of council issues and the management of the building of the infrastructure that this community really desperately needs. So thank you.
And our only missing member is Linda Lenord, who has 30 plus years of experience in education and social services. So unfortunately, she can't be here tonight, but again, another example of the different skills and knowledge and backgrounds that we bring as a team, which we promise to continue to work together and with others in council in a unified way, keep everything transparent and get things done. So thank you again.
Thanks for Hastings first, and now can we have fighters for our region?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lisa Interman. I've been Deputy Mayor for 6 years and I'm heading up Team Interman, Fighters for Our Region. There's been my passion in council is for good government. In my opinion, this is the place where, if there is to be good government, this is where we will find it. This is where its genesis will be. And for that reason, I've been on council for a long time. I have great experience in there. There's been some comments made, not only here but elsewhere, about the need for new blood in council. I would like just to remind people that the culture starts at the top. And I am standing for mayor because I have a passion to bring a better culture to the organisation, to in fact engender the teamwork that many have talked about tonight, the partnerships, not only in council but also outside of council. We have some great people in this community who have ideas and inspiration, and I would love to have the opportunity to bring them together so that we can see the best come out of council on behalf of the community. For myself, I grew up in Sydney. I'm a mother and grandmother, survived domestic violence, arrived here. This was my safe haven, and I have started a new life here. Being on council has been enormously fulfilling, and I look forward to continuing that. I would like to introduce the number 2 on my ticket, who is Kingsley Searle. Thanks, Kingsley.
Thanks, Lisa. Welcome, everybody. Still awake? You're doing well. Okay, I've been influencing local directions and creating long-term positive outcomes with the community for a long time now. I guess you'd call me a vocal local. I've forged lasting relationships with our federal, state and good working relationships with all levels of our council. I'll promise you three things: commitment, responsibility and accountability. I have a track record of providing strong strategic leadership, and with your help, I'll bring this to council. I've been in the area for 40 years, and during my working life, I've been an electrical contractor, an oyster farmer, and a tech with Telstra. It's more than likely I've sat down and had a cuppa with most of you here today. The achievements I'm most proud of is my involvement with the Rural Fire Service. I'm a life member of the North Shore Brigade. I've been captain for 15 years and I've been a member of the brigade for 35 years. Obviously, volunteering and giving back to the community is close to my heart. I'm also a life member of the North Shore Progress Association, and I've been on the Coastal Estuary and Floodplain Subcommittee for 13 years now. But 1 minute is too short for any of us to introduce who we are. I've been around for a long time. A lot of people in this room know me. I'll ask you to talk to them. I'll stand by my record of achieving things. And like I said, I'm going to tell them the greatest things is sliced bread. But talk to other people and I'll stand by my record. Thank you. My name is Stuart Cooper.
Good evening all. My name's Stuart Cooper. I've been married to my lovely wife Patricia for over 30 years and live in Lake Cadai. I got a stepdaughter and 3 grandkids. I have a business background. Been an accountant for 25 years, specialising in project management for 20 of them. I've also been running my own company for 17 years now and spent most of that time working overseas for global companies. I'm now retired and I became a founding member of Saving Lake Cadai to try and help the health of the lake and also get true facts out about what some of the issues were. And we've been reasonably successful in getting some of that done. We have focused on fighting for local residents' issues outside of that though, including Illaroo Road, Houston Mitchell Drive and some of the other issues around Lake Cadai. As well as that, I'm also a member of the Lake Cadai Council and Community Action Team, and I'm the Secretary and Treasurer for the Hastings Photography Group. I decided to run for council in part due to some of the issues we had with the lake and in part to see as a result of that, to see a much greater improvement in the transparency of communication from council. I also, given some of the developments going on around Lake Cat-Eye, have a real passion for seeing the infrastructure improvements that need to be delivered ahead of the developments, not 20 years after the event. I also want to see or provide a voice for some of the areas outside of Port Macquarie, which don't always get some priority. Thank you. I'll just introduce Narelle Milligan.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming. I appreciate the time you're spending tonight with us. I chose to return to the Hastings in 2000 to be with one of my sons, and my grandchildren have grown up here and enjoyed this wonderful environment. Some of you might even know my grandson on Bondi Rescue. The things that drive me to stand for council include 15 years of dealing with infrastructure at council, parks and recreation, and I was involved with the very first community Have Your Say, which happened in council after the Christchurch earthquake, and council decided to model themselves on this particular approach that happened after Christchurch. I've spent some years as a senior manager in the Commonwealth government, and I've spent some years in the biggest rail reform in New South Wales as a senior manager. So I've had a vast experience. I've got lots of common sense. I really would like to work to make council more accountable, consult people carefully and properly with costings that happen. At the moment, we're going through a time on the North Shore where we're asked to choose between certain options for council with money, but no costings. So that's not the way to do consultation. So I may not be perfect, but parts of me are excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And just got Stephen Gates.
Thank you very much. Let me first acknowledge the support of my lovely wife and children in running for the position of Mayor, and to thank all of you for attending tonight and your interest. And I'm really pleased to hear the views of some of our colleagues. By way of brief background, I moved here in 2016, 50 years of age, have 3 girls who started off in Huntington School, the very tiniest of schools, and are currently at St. Columba. A member of the Rural Fire Service on the fire grounds, and I live at Bybarra, which is a rural community. And one of the things that's very important to me is to give a voice to those people and not be forgotten, as well as everyone else. By way of background, I was a digger in the army for 4 years when I was 17, left that, went back to university for a Bachelor of Business. After that, I was an industrial relations specialist with key skills in performance management of individuals against targets, and if they didn't achieve it, the management of that person out of the business. After that, I spent almost a decade as a senior management as a National Human Resources Manager. After that, I decided to go and set my own business up. I worked as a window cleaner, hanging off the side of a building. 13 years later, I sold that business, so I moved here. Now I have a 500-acre cattle farm. To understand me and what I bring to council, and particular to the role of mayor, is to understand my journey whilst in this community. My family, my neighbours, 40 other roads, and their families and neighbours live on what council calls an access track. That is a council maintained road that will only be maintained when it is inaccessible or impassable, in their words, to a standard four-wheel drive. I can't get visitors to our farm in a normal car. That road has been a local council road since 1908. 40 other roads are affected. 3 years ago, I started a campaign to understand council and to expose council. That seen me take a court case against council for freedom of information. They spent $100,000 defending why not to give information about grading programs, budgets on roads, and so on. We have another 2 live freedom of information applications against council. They've rejected one. That would expose why council gravel reseeded someone's private driveway through council funds. And that matter will soon be lodged in court. We'll take them to court again. When we talk about the fundamentals of council, the transparency, the accountability, the true consultation, that is what we will focus on. When I listen to Deputy Mayor Interman and is talking about some of the other problems with council, what I can clearly say after 3 years of research, I've read about 100,000 pages of council documents, is that the biggest issue is senior management. If you wish to change an organisation, you can only achieve that through senior management. The fundamental question for me is, as Mayor, you manage the performance, you set the targets for the CEO. If they don't achieve those targets, then you address that. The CEO manages the performance of their direct reports, the directors, and so on down the chain. I doubt that that has ever happened. What will become readily apparent is the depth of knowledge and understanding that I possess about what council is actually doing, and it will shock you. I come to you not seeking the role of councillor, just mayor, because I firmly believe it is the only position that I can affect change. As a councillor, I don't believe I would be effective. Uniquely, I run by myself. I don't have any party affiliation, which could influence decision making. I owe no debts to any individual. You cannot buy my decision. I will make a decision consistent with what is best for you. And let me be very clear about this. I am here for you. I don't care if it causes grief or embarrassment to council. You are my focus. Through you being our focus, we will have a better council. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks for that. Appreciate it. So we'll now move on to the questions. Okay, so we're gonna. I'll state the questions, or if the person's in the room, I'll call them up to state their question, and then we'll give each group 1 minute to come up and give a brief answer to that question. So, question number 1. So we've got: some councillors have referred to council's reserves as a cash stash of community money that has been stockpiled by council. In the September council meeting, information was made publicly available that suggested this is not the case. What is your understanding of council's $347 million reserve and how they can be used? So, Team Shepherd. Just call Team Shepherd to answer that first.
So I will acknowledge that we actually posed that question. And the reason that we posed that question is because we take the very risky campaign strategy of asking our community to get involved. When claims are made by candidates about council's financial position and being able to use a cash pool to be able to do everything we want to do. It's not necessarily the case. And what I base that information, what I'm saying upon is actually the information provided by council in their September council meeting, describing what those 347 million reserves, how they're structured and how they can be used. And I brought a copy of that document and placed it at the end of our table so you can have a look for yourself. I bought several copies. But the reality is that 347 million are restricted in how they can be used. 80% of the reserves have external restrictions that dictate what they have to be used for, including sewage treatment, water plants, and other projects that are critical for our region and need to happen and need that money to be there for it. The other 20% are internally allocated to projects like the Ocean Drive duplication ferry upgrades, the staff entitlements, and all of those are also very important. So please do get engaged with the information that's available so you know the truth of what's being said throughout the campaign. So.
Greens. Yeah, thanks very much. I find this quite an interesting question and I concur with the work that Rachel's done, whether it was a bit of a Dorothy Dixer or not, but for the size of the business, $347 million in funds available is really commensurate with other councils. The notion that council is sitting on community money just for the sake of, instead of spending it where needed, is a little bit of fear-mongering. And it's quite interesting that there is only one current councillor here. I'd be very interested to see what Lisa has to say on this option. As far as rates being too high, well, IPART sets rates. And in fact, all rates have already risen in this mayor as council's term. So the $347 million, 80% of it's allocated, as Rachel said, to waterworks. It's a large business. The Greens would act to have this open and transparent and quite responsible in our economic strategy for local government. So we believe that this is a little bit of a fear-mongering question. Thank you.
John.
Rachel summed that up fairly well. From what I understand, yeah, $277 million is tied up in external reserves for future infrastructure, which is extremely important for our community, being water and sewage infrastructure. And key infrastructure and capital works, the capital works program, they are multi-year projects and they take a lot of planning and design. What I will say is we have to be extremely financially responsible for our community and our ratepayers' money. But what we do need to do, as I mentioned before, we need to get projects shovel ready. We need to get the planning and design done so we can get projects shovel ready, which gets us to the point where we can go to the state and federal government and say, look, this is shovel ready, and then negotiate and have good relationships with our state and federal members so we get grant funding to get these projects underway. Otherwise, we just keep falling further behind.
Thank you, John. Hastings first.
Right. The funds are allocated under state legislative requirements, so they cannot just be used for anything. So I concur with everybody that's spoken so far. Ratepayers' funds need to be looked after. I just refer back to what's happened at Gosford Council in the last 12 months. You can read up about this, but it's the sixth largest council in Australia, and in the last 5 years has moved from a profitable position to a loss. They're now appointing an administrator. It's not through fraudulent or means, it's simply through mismanagement of funds. So it comes down to governance. It's very important that we govern correctly and we monitor this. We will look to deep dive into the financials as well to make sure that we're accounting for things as we move forward. With special projects, they can be funded by a number of different ways. It can be equity, it can be stakeholder contributions, it can be dollar for dollar community projects. It can actually be low-cost borrowings as well through state government instruments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Got fighters for our region.
So, fighters for our region totally concur with most of the comments that have actually been said tonight. A couple of things that we would point out, though, is that we believe there needs to be a review of these funds and the projects that they support and determine what's actually stopping some of those projects from actually being delivered now. There's not everything can be, but there are some of those funds that can actually be delivered for the purpose they were put there now. And if they can't, trying to understand what is actually stopping them from being delivered. What's the hold-up? What's the missing piece? So that would be a focus for us. And as part of that, Lisa was one of the councillors who actually put forward in the September meeting for a review of all of those reserves. And the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee is actually working on a report which will come back to council in November. So that'll be before the council election. The other thing is, if you actually want to go and take the time to read through the annual report, the financials themselves, there are notes to those accounts that actually detail all of the funds that are held in reserve and what they've been set aside for to a large extent. So they're well worth a read. Thank you.
Stephen Gates.
Thank you. Is it too loud if I talk with this? Is everything okay? Okay. I take slightly different view than everyone else. So there are two types, or three types of restrictions. There's an external restriction governed by legislation, what it can and can't be used for. There are internal restrictions, which can be fabricated for whatever you want. And then you have an unallocated restriction, which again, you can use for anything else. I prefer to take the view of Melinda Pavey, the member for Oxley, where she says that council is filthy rich and it can use those internal restrictions for whatever it wants. We're being misled a little bit in thinking about, can we use it, can we not use it? The real question to answer is, how did we get so much money there in the first place? That's the critical question. So if we look at that, we can see coincidentally that special rate variations levied on you since 2000 and 2001 have contributed $146 million in extra revenue to council. Your internally restricted accounts have been increasing by about $13.2 million a year. There are several ways that money accrued. The first is that they haven't used the special rate variations for the purpose that it was meant for. Wrap it up. So if I look at the Glasshouse report from Willem, he concluded that the special rate variation between $26 and $32 million was not used on roads that it was meant to be for, but diverted to Glasshouse. Council is not spending money on roads. For example, its own policy is that road resealing will do 10% a year. It is doing 1.7%.
Thanks, Stephen. Might need to end it there.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you, everyone, there for answering that question. So our second question, I'll just read out. Council's draft economic development strategy proposes a whole new direction for economic planning for our region. What are your thoughts on the vision and action forward that this strategy suggests for our future? Team Shepherd.
So I'll be transparent. This was another Dorothy Dixer because money makes the world go round, realistically. And if you want to get something done, unfortunately, even as a psychologist, I'm aware I've always needed to monetize things in order to make a case for it to the powers that be. And in this case, advocacy around the economic development strategy has resulted in a fantastic draft that's completely different to the direction that council initially indicated they were going in. And the economic development strategy is so important because whatever industries that council chooses to support and foster and encourage, they're the ones that are going to shape our future, our employment, our environment, everything. So council has now set a draft strategy that actually sets a vision for our economy that's sustainable and inclusive and is serviced adequately by infrastructure. Woohoo, wouldn't that be good? The issue is, of course, bringing the pretty words in this draft economic development strategy to life. And that requires a team committed to action, to finding the funding, and also have the capacity to build relationships with state members, federal members, and within the existing council body and staff to make it happen.
Thank you. Got the Greens.
Thanks very much. So the question was, do we support the adoption of these policies, climate change response policy and sustainability policy? Absolutely. It is what the Greens are all about, and a couple of people on our ticket here tonight have been quite involved in pushing for these through the sustainability working group as community members, as volunteers, as participants in that space. And it's what it's all about. The think global, act local. Like this is where it's at, and these are the changes we need. And it's very exciting that with the efforts of a lot of people, I'm hearing great things that we are pushing for this new direction, this great direction, and it's going to bring us great things. Thanks.
John Bailey.
It is the draft economic strategy, isn't it?
This one is the economic strategy.
As Rachel said, it is a very good read. It's a good strategy. With economic development strategy, by creating the right environment, you're supporting growth and a balanced economy, and that helps provide jobs, local jobs for our community, and that's a good thing. I think our business industry and the council need to be united to create those opportunities, and the development of new industries also in a balanced and sustainable way. But I think it's a good strategy to document. Thank you.
Hastings first.
Hopefully you can hear me this time. The draft economic strategy is very much aligned with many of the policies of Hastings First. So creating economic hubs and attracting quality business investment. We have the success of the medical and education clusters that exist in our community. We've got very good businesses within the Hastings area, Central Energy, Burden, Air Construction, these sort of high value engineering services companies can create new hubs. So that's more complementary businesses, startups, attracting them to our region. Another policy is supporting local businesses, locals first, a post-COVID tourism plan, supporting local media to showcase businesses around town and in our community, and supporting micro businesses within our community. Another policy is pedestrian priority and pedestrians first, and that's ensuring that our shopping centres within the Hastings region have crossings, raised pedestrian crossings, exploring ways to enlarge pavement areas for enhancing sort of the shopping areas, and working with state government to try and trial different areas that people can access our shopping centres, whether that's park and ride or electric buses, etc.
Hastings for our region.
Thank you. I will try not to repeat, but maybe take this a little bit further. Absolutely, the draft economics development strategy is a real step forward. However, note that it is only a draft. It is currently on exhibition. You have the opportunity at this moment to have your input into that new draft. It is exciting, it is enlightening, innovative, and takes us forward. Absolutely. So yes, I encourage you to have a look at it and to make a submission. But to me, I need to add something more and to say that words on paper are not the only thing that one needs to make a good council and to help this council lead. We actually need to have flesh and blood people who are willing to commit to these strategies, to get out in the community and find those people who are innovative, who have the possibility of cluster economic development opportunities happening. I would like to be such a mayor. That is not happening at the moment. We really need persons, flesh and blood persons, to be out there and to be driving these strategies, because words on paper are not alone, are not enough alone. Thank you.
Stephen Gates.
Thank you. So I've read both the draft strategy and also the more recent discussion paper. I think it heads us in the right direction, but what I find with council is this complete disconnect between a strategy that's on paper and the actual execution of it on a day-to-day sense. I would. Sorry, I'm a little too tall. Is that better? Thank you. Thank you. So I would take it a little bit further. If that policy or strategy is adopted, what I would want to see is that the CEO adopt very clear and specific performance targets that they need to meet. I would then want to see that passed down through to her direct reports as directors. My experience with council is they will say one thing and they'll do something completely different. As Deputy Mayor Intamin said, there's nothing stopping council from doing this yesterday. I've got examples where a local business wanted to expand and create a new business, and they were told they needed to wait 3 years for a DA to employ someone. I have another person who, as a business, wants to expand, spent $100,000 on consultants, and now being told he may not get it. It goes on and on. You can have your top line philosophy. It is not being executed. It needs to change. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. So we've got the next question. This is from Blair Maxwell. I don't know if Blair's present today at all. If not, I'll read it out for him. The community does not want to lose the use of safe dog walking on Wash House Beach. Who is going to support the elderly and the vulnerable to keep safe pet walking areas for them, such as Wash House Beach? Team Shepherd.
Now we get to the questions you probably really wanted to be here for, right? And thank you, Blair. So we will be supporting the elderly and vulnerable to keep safe pet walking areas, and it's actually really important as in a balanced approach to leadership that you need to be balancing those social, environmental and economic components. Ensuring our community has safe and accessible places to live their lives and be out in the world is actually really important for health reasons, for social reasons, all sorts of things that pay off financially in the long run as well for our community. Pets provide critical emotional support. They help us stay healthy by getting outside, all of those wonderful things. Now, the community engagement around the recent dogs policy did reveal significant shortage of dog parks in our area, and that it would go a long way to meeting the needs of our community in so many ways. All the people who feel negatively impacted by dogs, as well as all those people who feel really negatively impacted by not being able to get out with their best friends. And so one of the priorities that we absolutely set is being able to make sure there's adequate dogs-only areas available in our community.
So the Greens.
Thank you for this question. Look, I'm well aware that this has caused a lot of angst in the community. People have turned against each other on this issue. So I'm very mindful of the controversy it's caused and the hurt to many people. I've looked at the policy, particularly in relation to Wash House Beach, and we believe that a compromise can be reached there by having dogs on leads and also creating safer access to Dunbogan Beach, the south end of Dunbogan Beach. We feel as though that could be a compromise which might bring the community back together again. Obviously, dog owners need to be responsible for their dogs, and one of the causes of concern at Wash House Beach was that dogs were just being allowed to roam into the area in front of Katang Nature Reserve and cause major problems with disturbance to threaten birds there and actually going into the bushland there. As Rachel said, having dog-only areas is very important for the community, and we will certainly be working with in council to achieve that objective. Thank you.
John Bailey.
Funnily enough, this is an issue that's happening right up and down the coast, and the common denominator seems to be the National Parks and Wildlife Service, and that's an extremely hard hoop to jump through, that one, I can assure you. But it is vitally important that we do have areas for dog walkers, because for a lot of people, they're not just pets, they're companions, and we need to provide these areas. And I do agree, if Wash House Beach, as far as I know, the National Parks and Wildlife Service are going to put major big signage up, and they will draw a line in the sand as far as you can take your dog, which is, I know, ridiculous, because the majority of people are responsible. Your dog is on a lead, it's controlled, and we need these areas. But if there is a compromise, I do agree. Dunbogan Beach, if we do need to provide a facility there, we need to provide good access, we need to provide good lighting, we need to provide toilets. So if there is a compromise, we need to do it properly. Thank you.
Hastings first.
Well, this is an issue that's very close to my heart because I'm a dog owner, and it just comes down to certain dog owners not doing the right thing. I agree with everything. We agree with everything that's been said here tonight. It's around compromise, and there are some wonderful compromises in our region. I know where I go walking with a friend at Stewart Park, there's even areas that are fenced for large dogs and a separate one for small dogs. Now, that's amazing amenity to give to local people who want to be able to separate their dogs. But agreed, we've got to make sure that it's equitable for everybody, not just dog walkers, but also for those other people who want to enjoy our amenities. So there has to be, we can do something that is going to make it work for everybody. But again, it's a hugely emotive issue. So it's going to be a little harder one to probably solve. Thank you.
Fighters for our region.
Thank you. I was always told the first question you should ask is, do you own a dog? Okay. As everybody said, it's an emotive issue. It's a balancing act, no doubt. But the one thing that is blatantly obvious is our population is growing, and we have to have more of these facilities. There's no doubt about it. They have to be in the right place. It's not only people. No one's talked about the dogs, the safety of dogs, big dogs running free, attacking little dogs, etc. There's a lot of science has to go into it. I know council is looking at it. They talked about it in the last council meeting. Wash House Beach was approved, and the signage has got to go up and it's got to be controlled. But look, I don't think anybody in the room is saying it shouldn't happen. It has to happen, and there has to be more of it. Thank you.
Stephen.
Thank you. As someone who owns 500 acres, I own 2 cattle dogs, and they've got a lot of room to go. We fully support access to dog beaches and dog parks and believe that should be encouraged. What we would say is go a little bit further and Get rid of some of the time restrictions or day restrictions on those, because fundamentally it is an experience for the person who owns it to get out, to go to a beautiful setting, and for the dog as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Stephen. So we'll just move on to the fourth question now. This is another question posed by Blair. I have to say this is actually something that's quite close to my heart, being a local resident and an advocate for youth as well, so I might slightly elaborate on it. Pathways and safe multi-age playgrounds are still needed in the area. Most playgrounds are only appropriate for some age groups. Laurieton Skate Park, if you've seen it, needs a complete rebuild into another area so that it is at least as equal to facilities that we now see at Lake Cadai and Port Macquarie. Other areas of the Hastings sometimes seem to have better facilities, or we kind of see that locally. So what would you support such initiatives to improving the playgrounds and skate parks and local facilities in the Laurieton area? So start with Team Shepherd.
Short answer is yes. So we've actually reviewed all the community plans for the Hastings area, and there's a common theme through all of them. Pathways and outdoor spaces was repeated. For the Camden Haven area, we definitely agree with the community that work in this space will go a long way to actually making a more connected community, both physically and emotionally. So Team Shepherd want to establish a network of shared pathways that not just connects the community to each other, but actually connects the community, allowing access to our bush, to our natural environment, and to all the amenities. In the playground space, we wouldn't just be supporting multi-age playgrounds, but we'd be looking more to support all ability playgrounds. So having functional spaces that cross generations and abilities, it's extremely important for the community. And it's a cause that's personally close to me. I told you I was a nan. I have twin grandsons, they're 3-year-old. So I'm looking at spaces that they can use now, that they can grow into. But also in the industry that I work in, having spaces that are safe and inclusive for everyone is really important, and it certainly strengthens our community. So the answer is yes.
Thank you. To the Greens.
Pathways, shared pathways such as the Gilgick track in Port Macquarie are excellent and well used. So cyclists, the Greens want to encourage active transport, so more use of cycles and able to walk from place to place. Now with the playgrounds, I've had a short look at the one here, and it's only about half as good as the one in Port Macquarie. Though the one in Port Macquarie is fairly new, so it's Laurieton's turn next, I imagine. And it's important to have places for teenagers to be able to go and do things, because otherwise they will do vandalism or something like that. So the Greens would also encourage council to have painting classes for murals, so that anyone who feels, like expressing themselves in paint, there'll be an opportunity to do that. Thank you.
John Bailey.
When you look at our facilities, a lot of it is Port Macquarie focused. You look at a great skate park, Port Macquarie Town Green, excellent disability, all abilities park for kids. That's on the Town Green and Town Beach as well. Shared pathway from Town Beach right through to Coolabung to Westport Park. That's lovely. How about the Camden Haven? Why are we so far left behind? As far as sporting facilities, that's a real bugbear of mine. That's right across the Hastings. As our population grows, our junior sporting facilities are overflowing. They're all landlocked. You look at Vince Inman and Laurieton Oval. Saturday mornings, winter sports, they're overflowing. Summer cricket, running out of space. It's landlocked. We need to strategically plan. We need to future-proof. We need to set some land aside, if not build something now, at least set that land aside for the future. Thank you.
Hastings first.
So in brief, yes, we would certainly support the construction of more pathways. I mean, Hastings is famous for its lack of pathways right across the region. Certainly support improving playgrounds, including age-specific equipment. Upgrading the skate park is a natural. I mean, the entire complex of Laurieton Oval, Bruce Porter Reserve, Vince Inman sporting fields. It is the ideal central location for these facilities. And once we're finished there and improve that area, and there's still plenty of room there to focus on that, Kendall and Dunbogan are probably next in line as well. So it needs to be right across the Camden Haven region in terms of what we can do to assist the youth, to keep them out of trouble, to keep them busy and occupied. That's certainly something we thoroughly support. So thank you.
Fighters for our region.
We definitely support this. If we were elected, we would do an audit of all the facilities and make sure that there's rotation occurs in terms of playgrounds and playground facilities. We would also, because we're facing increased climate change, make sure that all playgrounds had a cover. At the moment, this is happening with just a few, although schools have it and preschools have it. Playgrounds are us. Both Kingsley and I have had the experience of working with council to restore an historic area of the Hastings, and we've seen how the landscape architects want to impose their view, which might be contrary to the community. We've also worked with them on restoration of a playground on the North Shore. They wanted to put musical chimes in the playground next to houses of shift workers. So if it elected to council, we'd be very conscious of what was happening in the playgrounds. The pathways need to be linked, and we need lots of planning for the future, and we would encourage council to apply for extra funding for it. Thank you.
Stephen Gates.
I always seem to be going after the shorter people, unfortunately. Really interesting to hear what everyone had said, and I think John Bailey, I really echo his sentiments. One of the things we know about more rural, and I'll put Laurieton and North Haven and Dunbogan as part of this, is that they may not have the same facilities, but they may have different facilities which need support. For example, I come from Bybarra. We don't have a playground. We have a lot of people, but no playground. But we have a community hall and we have a tennis court. And that's the focus for our community. So one solution doesn't fit them all. One thing I will emphasise is a lot of your issues about maintenance or how it looks or the priority it's given is actually resolved by a document the council don't want you to have. Now that document from recollection is referred to as the Parks, Reserves and Sporting Fields Hierarchy from recollection. It's about a 30-page document, and it will tell you how often they're going to mow that park, how often they're going to clean it. And I can tell you that you are way down the bottom of the pecking order. That needs to change. It's about level of service, the same across the board for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. So on to the next question. This question's from Penny Small. I don't know if we have Penny here today. Would you like to come and pose your question? Yep, would you like to come up and ask a question?
Removable.
Yeah.
On my back to the the microphone from the stand.
Yeah.
Hello. 2 years ago, we had 300 people in this hall. Every single one of them wanted to see the Beach to Beach pathway completed. I'm Penny Small, President of Beach to Beach Pathway Committee. Thank you, committee members, for being here. I'm also a member of the Camden Haven Council Community Action Team. We have created a 5-year plan for the Camden Haven. My background is education, administration and leadership. When you came here tonight, I expected you to focus on the Camden Haven because you are in the Camden Haven. We have had enough of the port-centric agenda. And the Camden Haven agenda is very clearly outlined in that plan. John, you have a copy of it, thank you. My question to you is, when you create the agenda from the operational plan, in your position as councillor or mayor, how will you ensure that you action out the completion of the remaining 5 sections of the Beach to Beach, of the remaining sections of the Schools to School, repair and complete the Creek to Creek? This community deserves to be connected physically. Emotionally, we have been through hell, haven't we? Between the bushfires and the floods, there are people homeless here still because of what has happened. They can get out for free and get on the pathway and exercise. They can walk their dogs on the pathway. How will you ensure the operational plan, which we are finally, after advocacy for many years, have aligned, you will resource the millions of dollars needed, not just put subject to grant application, to complete the most dangerous sections and make it people-friendly and environmentally friendly? Sorry, I am very...
Thank you very much for that question. Team Shepherd.
So anyone who's listening or watching, I think we need to recognise that that passion is why Beach to Beach has got to where it has so far, because there's been literally the laying of concrete by community members in order to get it to where it is now. The reality is that in terms of infrastructure investment, you get the best bang for buck from footpaths that connect our community. You get the health, you get the social benefits, as well as the amenity that brings people into a region. The hardest work has already been done by the Beach to Beach pathway in terms of getting this as a line on the operational plan. And the issue now is that after hundreds of thousands of dollars have been invested in getting it to this point, how does it get over the line through the development approval that's currently under process? I think that's happening this month, actually. And then the next step, as I see it, is actually making sure that in our relationship with our state MP, that we maintain that positively so that we recognise any opportunity there is to get it over the line through state advocacy from Leslie. And I welcome any further questions in regard to that later or after then.
To the Greens.
Oh, Penny, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your enthusiasm on that. I'll give you a little bit of a story. I'd like 10 minutes to talk on this. I'm a committed cyclist. Last year in November, we brought, as part of the Kempsey Bicycle Users Group, the Ballina Bicycle Users Group, to do the Beach to Beach and review it down here in Laurieton. It is an absolute gem. I give you a commitment that if a Green is elected to council, we will push for active transport and the Beach to Beach be completed. The Schools to School, it's got big holes in it out at Lakewood Village. The cycling plan, as part of the Sustainability Working Group, the council cycling plan hasn't been reviewed since 2015. We've been pushing for that. Active transport, healthy walking paths and cycling is passionate. We're passionate about it. We share your passion. As a committed cyclist, that is just such a jewel. millions of dollars will be returned time and time over by tourism to what is one of the best possible cycle routes on the coast. We're also committed to joining the Googig to Lake Cat-Eye, from Lake Cat-Eye to Bonny Hills, from Bonny Hills to Laurieton, and having cycling and active walking networks that would compete with famous ones anywhere in the world. Jolly Nose Track brings people from all over New South Wales. If you don't know about it, look at the Facebook group for Jolly Nose. So with electric bicycles now, you can tell how passionate I am about it. I give you our commitment as Greens that, yes, we'll make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. John Bailey.
Firstly, I'd like to thank the Beach to Beach Committee for their years and years of work that they've done on this. It's a community infrastructure initiative, and it needs finishing. You only got to look at what's done at the moment. It's heavily used by the community through all demographics, young, old, you name it. Just with this document here, there's a couple of lines in here about this is a collaboration between the Hastings and the Camden Haven, supporting the vision and objectives determined by our community, ensuring equity and access and safety for people with disabilities, pedestrians, pram cyclists and mobility scooters. I think we need to do that. As Rachel said, the DA is about to be submitted, and I can't see an issue with that going through. It's just a brilliant thing. The final parts of the jigsaw, number one, the safety concerns. There's certain parts of Camden Head Road where it's just wide enough to get 2 vehicles through. If you're a pedestrian, if you're on a mobility scooter, if you're mum and dad with kids cycling, the only place you can go is to use the roadway. How dangerous is that? By finishing this pathway, that takes that safety aspect out of it. Tourism-wise, it ticks every box. It's low impact, it's eco-friendly. It'll be a major draw card for the Camden Haven, and it's just a brilliant idea. We've got to get everyone, if you're lucky to be elected, get behind this project and let's get it finished.
Thanks. Hastings first.
So over recent weeks, I've been lucky enough to meet up with Penny, Rod Buckton, big supporter of the region, the Bonny Hills Progress Association. I'm catching up with Leslie Williams on Tuesday. I also plan to meet up with the Lake Cat-Eye Progress Association, because you can't get to know the local issues unless you speak to the local people who know what's going on in this area. Obviously, I'm Port Macquarie based, but for us to succeed as a council, we need to know everything about the entire LGA, which is fantastic. So Penny, absolutely we support the initiative. We know how much will benefit locals and tourists alike, and certainly we'll make every effort to get as much funding as possible to complete the project. But at the moment, we're on the outside looking in. We can't do much at this point in time, but vote me in, vote my team in, make the change, get new councillors in to make the progress. Thank you.
Fighters for our region.
So Penny, well done. The way you've actually pulled everyone together in this community to do that project is outstanding, and it's a fabulous result that you've ended up with. Needs a bit more to complete, and a lot of that work is in progress, and the rest of the funding, we need to get it however we can to complete it. It just would be devastating if that didn't happen. As has already been mentioned, it's a draw card for tourism. It's eco as well. It ticks all the boxes. As well as that, though, there are other communities outside of Port Macquarie that are also suffering in the same way, and we need to actually take the community plans that have been written by all of those communities
and start to make them an actual focus to feed into the operational plan. There are a lot of things happening within Laurieton at the moment that are in the planning stage, but we need to spread that across all of these communities outside Port, recognising Port does have the largest majority of people, but the needs of these areas can't be forgotten.
Thank you. Steve?
Thank you very much, Penny, and your passion is certainly infectious. Let me say I fully support what you do. It is a jewel for this community, for neighbouring communities, for our residents, and for visitors coming. Absolute jewel, fantastic job. What I would say is that the issue with council is its lack of prioritisation. I'll just give you two examples. For example, they just spent $6.3 million paving Gordon Street and doing some stormwater works. Wasn't required, but they thought it'd be nice to do that at the same time. The Lakes Way, millions of dollars. You need $9 million for the rest of your walkway. Council just needs to get serious. It needs to stop diverting money to what individual people at council want and actually do what the community want. Thank you.
Thank you. Just going to move on to the next question now. This is being posed by Jackie Murray. I don't think Jackie is able to make it today, so I'll pose the question for her. The Port Macquarie, sorry, the time is going. The Port Macquarie Hastings area has one of the most important koala populations on the New South Wales coast due to its genetic diversity, and yet state legislation and council's koala recovery strategy are failing to protect core koala habitat from being destroyed by development. If elected, what will you do to ensure our koalas survive east of the Pacific Highway? Team Shepherd?
So, at university, I learned a lot about koalas. It's a very key topic, especially these days. There was recently a consultation report done on where koalas will be projected in the next couple of years, and by 2050 they are going to be extinct. It is projected that they're going to be extinct. That is not good for a multitude of reasons, obviously. It's not good for biodiversity. It's not good for the economy, if you want to look at it like that. But overall, it just shows complete negligence of our environment and complete negligence of the things that we are supposed to look after, that we've been tasked to look after. Things that we can do as a council, we can support local projects. We can support more, our state member, Leslie Williams, is buying up land, private land, which is endemic koala habitat and which is very important. And saving more habitat like that is a step in doing the right thing, and that's what we can do. Other than that, it's all up to the federal level, it's all up to the state level, and by projects seen in like Port Stephens, such as the mines going ahead, things like that, completely irrelevant to here, but projects like that are a massive step back. So yeah, obviously not letting those things go ahead.
Thank you. This is a very important topic for the Greens. Council had the opportunity to adopt a coastal koala plan of management back in 2018 and delayed on that for various reasons. Now we've got to the stage where, due to the changes in state legislation, that has become very difficult. We're saying that the council has an opportunity to actually take the lead as a council on koala protection in this local government area. They can do things despite what constraints the state government is putting on them. They do have a koala recovery strategy. We're calling for that to really have priority. There are a number of really good actions within that strategy.
One of the other things is that council could be doing is really supporting Leslie Williams in her pursuit of buying a significant area of koala habitat, which has been referred to at Lake Innes. It's 200 hectares of habitat, which is up for sale. It's part of it's zoned for residential. If that is developed, sold and developed, the Koala Hospital has stated that it will basically bring to the brink of extinction the local population in Port Macquarie. So it's important that council works closely with state government, but also can act itself by having a really strong coastal koala management plan. Thank you.
John Bailey.
This is a subject, like as in my workplace with the news, we've been covering for years and years, and people like Shane Flanagan and Sue Aston are just pulling their hair out, saying the same things over and over. It does have a lot to do with the state government, rules and regulations, but sustainable development is key. You drive around Port Macquarie, you look at some of the development that's going in at Bonnie Hills. The developer comes in, mows every single stick off the piece of land. There are no koala corridors left. So we need to look at the way we're developing. What type of development do we want? Certain developments that are in Port Macquarie at the moment, they're rooftop to rooftop. There's not one bit of greenery anywhere. So we really have to look at the way we are developing in the future.
Hastings first.
Okay, we know that koalas are the face of Port Macquarie. They're iconic. When you talk to a foreigner, that could be someone from the Big Smoke, or whether it's a genuine foreigner from overseas, and you talk about Port Macquarie, it's the koalas that they remember. And Hastings First will ensure that we maintain the current habitat, the current koala corridors, and where possible, we'll try to expand the habitat that's there. You've heard the Greens just talk about the 200 hectares of land that's under threat at the moment, and it's possibly under threat of being cleared. That's completely unacceptable for the Port Macquarie community, and I'd encourage all of you to write to the State Treasurer, Matt Keane, who's also our Environmental Minister, to ensure that you get your voice heard, that you want the State Treasurer to fund the purchase of that land and protect that additional 200 hectares of prime koala habitat for future generations.
Vices for our region.
Okay, well, I'm pretty personally connected with this one. We've got the plantation over our side. I work with the Koala Hospital quite closely as far as developing the fire plans over there, etc. Ditto on what everybody said. It's super important. I don't think you realise how Port Macquarie is connected to the koala. Through the fires overseas, the millions of dollars that were raised by the hospital were mostly overseas donations. We have a real connection with this critter to Port Macquarie. For us to allow it to be destroyed would really be an absolute blight on our society and our culture here. We've got a great opportunity there to use it to promote ourselves. But for God's sake, we've got to look after what we're talking about. John alluded to it. One of the big problems is it's okay to buy back the land at Lake Innes, which we have to do. But you need to join it up. These things are animals. They need to have corridors with all the other animals so they can move around, mate, etc., etc. So the recovery strategy plan is there in council. It needs to be adopted, needs to be pushed. It's just laid out as there. We have to do it.
Stephen Gates.
Thank you. I think John Bailey articulated it particularly well. What I would say is I am no koala expert, and the way that I've always conducted myself professionally or even life on the farm is if I don't understand something, to bring the experts in and to get briefings from them as to what the situation is. The great concern that I have, and we talk about Port Macquarie koala community, is that we've already lost. The horse has bolted. That concerns me. I see the development, everyone else has echoed it. I wonder whether we need to start thinking development opportunities for housing outside of Port if we can still retain that koala population. I remember going to Victoria and the Great Ocean Road. I can't remember the town I was in. I can remember the tourists who'd stopped on a dirt road, 50 of them, all with cameras, looking up at a tree, and there were koalas there. And there wasn't just one or two, there were 10s and 20s. We don't have that here that I've ever seen. And I think it's a great asset if we can achieve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Well, that's all the questions that we had posed earlier. We do have time for a question from the floor if anyone has one. Yep, would you like to come and ask your question?
Alan Fenwick, I've been up here 3.5 years, and all I've seen is habitat destruction. Right here where I live, just quickly in Laurieton, before you go up to the roundabout at Kew, there's a giant 5 acres of land had just been bulldozed, and it was free mulch. I thought, what insult! No one was there protesting, but anyway. So my question is, with the local government role in DAs and the state government placing upon councils urban consolidation, what exactly is the council going to do when the state government's calling the shots?
Team Shepherd.
Thank you for the question. It certainly speaks to a central part of our platform, and my answer to that is there are specific avenues that councils do have to be able to develop agreements, strategies, requirements with the state government as well. One of those was the development of the local strategic planning statement last year, which is developed by council but approved by the state. And I see that as actually a turning point in council's strategic direction, where we drifted away from actually being interested in reaching the vision of council's vision of a high quality, sustainable life for all, and reorienting back to that vision and moving towards it. The current opportunities that are upcoming in the very near future are around the local environmental plan, where we do get to define those controls that will be legally mandated for developers to follow, and that's going to be an opportunity for the community, and you need councillors that are going to be there to say, hey, these are the points you need to be focusing in on if that's what you want from development. But more broadly, just speaking to a team of councillors who are interested in making sure that we do have sustainable development, what you're looking at is all of these opportunities to be able to be pursuing, if we're looking at new subdivisions, if you have to do greenfields, broadacre development, it has to be net zero. You've got a clean slate. You've got to be able to do it perfectly, sustainably, regeneratively. If you're looking at urban consolidation, we need to be making sure that that's actually improving the social environmental amenity of our community as well. And I'd love to have more of a chat later.
The Greens.
Thank you for your question. Look, we need a new local environment plan. That's absolutely the case. 2011, I believe, was the last one. We need to be really looking at the zoning and what's appropriate. We need to really map everything in our LGA, all the biodiversity, and be making really sustainable decisions. If we haven't got an idea what's there and how to measure it and how to know how much we can afford to lose, then we can't protect places. We can't have the right mix of some development, but keeping those vital biodiversity areas and green spaces, quality of life for people and animals in our LGA.
John Bailey.
I agree with all of that. It is about sustainability and a sustainable lifestyle. Everyone lives here, people move here because it's so beautiful. It's a beautiful place. And we need to look at the way we're developing. What sort of developments do we want? We need to listen to the community. And I think mostly we need to leave this place in an equal or a better position than we found it. Thank you.
Hastings first.
Get all the challenging questions. It's really about the master plan and the vision for our community and ensuring that the developments that are coming in, that get approved by council, are aligned and with that master plan, that they're desirable developments. You know, you've got to consider the infrastructure that's required. You've got to consider active transport being available, and how that's then master planned with the development that you actually want. Thank you.
Vices for our region.
I wonder if first I could get the question clarified for this gentleman. I think he said, in view of the fact that the state government calls the shots, what can we do?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Because you get the rights for each development.
Now that's thrown me.
Sorry, keep going what you're gonna.
What does the rates got to do with it?
No, it means the developers levy.
Development contribution. Yeah, okay. Look, I don't think I'm going to be able to answer this question properly because it is so convoluted, and in fact, you're right. The state government calls the shots on so many things. It was mentioned before that we got stymied regarding a koala plan of management. Absolutely. The state government has gone round in circles regarding koala management and legislation over the last several years, which means that councils have been completely disempowered to make legitimate, cohesive regulations regarding protection of koalas. It is appalling. They are stepping up to it now, but we have lost several years. If we go to just the big picture that you were talking about the state government having calling the shots, it is true that first off we've got land development here, and I'm not quite sure I know what area you're talking about at Kew, but please keep in mind, everybody, that if you see some land developed today, it may well have been approved quite some time ago. I think it was over in this group over here who said, we absolutely need the master plans. That's where you've got to start doing your large area master planning and identifying those areas that have to be protected. That has to be coherent and cohesive. I'm a scientist by trade. That is definitely where I want to go to bring all of these plans together. It's the only way we can stand up to the state government dilly-dallying about this legislation. Thank you.
Stephen Gates.
Alan, excellent point. Thank you. I really can't add any more value than what my colleagues have said, and I generally support what they've said. But thank you very much.
I think we've just got time for one more question. Do you have one? Did you have your arm raised? Yes. Did you have a question?
I have a statement.
Right. Okay. You need it because can you just make it here just so the viewers at home can see it as well, please? Thank you.
Jenny Peters, Camden Haven Chamber of Commerce, Camden Haven travel owner, 40 years, in support of Penny Small and her Beach to Beach pathway. I was driving to work the other morning and I saw a young girl on a push bike doing the right thing on the right-hand side of the road going towards Laurieton near the swamp. She came upon, I'm all goosebumpy, a four-wheel drive with a caravan going towards Dunbogan. That girl had to go into the swamp to let that caravan go past. I rest my case.
Thank you for that powerful statement. Do you have a question? Yeah. Yep. Would you like to come and ask the question up here?
Did we get an apology from the Mayor and her team for not being here? Didn't hear one at the start.
No. No. So the question was, did we get an apology from the Mayor for not being here?
There's 5 people on that team, right?
Yeah, we haven't actually heard, had any response for the invitation. Yes.
The Mayor rang me this morning and gave her apology to you and me regarding not being present tonight, because she knew how strongly the Beach to Beach committee had been advocating for representation.
Okay, well, that's more apology than we received, but that's good to hear. So we'll conclude things at this point from the question point of view. So I'll now invite each team to come up and make their closing statement. So we'll give you 2 minutes each, if you like, just to come and conclude things for the evening. So Rachel, if you'd like to come up first.
So this is what it's really all about in terms of being able to get out and be in the community and hear what community have to say and what they're interested in. So I really ask that you get back in touch with us to tell us what you thought about what we've said and tell us more about what's important to you. The Shepherd team is standing for sensible, sustainable progress, and that includes sustainable development, includes sustainable infrastructure, it includes sustainable economic development. I'm also standing as a mayoral candidate, and that wasn't a light decision to make as mother of a 3-year-old and as a psychologist who knows that there's a lot going on for our community and wonders if my services were best utilised that way. And the reason that I've chosen to run for mayor is because I felt that actually the best use of my particular skill set as someone with over a decade of experience working with various stakeholders who have incredible interest in the outcomes of particular situations, as someone who has a background in economics, as someone who has a background in community organising, someone who has a background as a soccer player, a soccer captain, a soccer coach, that I bring a unique set of skills which aren't related to executive power whatsoever. And that's entirely appropriate when it comes to a mayor, because a mayor holds virtually no executive power. The only power that a mayor holds is their capacity to be able to relate well with their colleagues, with their team, to uplift them, to be able to bring out the best in them, to know your staff, to know the people right alongside you, perhaps as a board of directors style, as I've heard it actually described. I think that's the skill set that I bring. I have a great respect for the council staff who I believe have been working hard. They're members of our community too. And I have a great respect for the current councillors, even though there's lots of things I don't agree with and lots of things that I think should be done differently. They threw their hat in the ring too. I think we're in a fortunate position as a community where it's not a matter of choosing from the lesser of evils in this election. Actually, I think you have some great candidates in front of you, and I implore you to vote for me as mayor, because I have the skills to be able to bring our community together when we have a lot of passionate people and a lot of divisive issues. We need to be coming together at this stage.
Thank you very much, Rachel. The Greens.
Thank you, Rachel. Fantastic words, and I echo that statement that really what we've heard tonight from from the people present here who want to represent you, who want to take your views and your feelings and make changes. And there's so many good choices here. But please also make a space for a Greens on council. Many councils in New South Wales have a Greens representative. I think it's time for that. If you want to talk about, grassroots democracy, which council should be all about, Greens are founded on that. That's what we live and breathe. Consensus decision making, teamwork, hearing everybody, hearing the disadvantaged groups. That's what we will ensure happens. We're all going to do a little bit of a goodbye tonight, so I'll hand over.
Yeah, thanks again for everyone for turning up, and particularly the candidates. This is great. Greens on Council will promote policies to ensure that all new and, where possible, existing residential areas have dedicated public transport and active transport infrastructure. Electric vehicles, which are close to my heart, we want electric vehicle charging infrastructure, housing with climate-conscious design, universal disability access provisions, standards for energy and water efficiency should be high, passive thermal heating and cooling designs. The Greens believe there should be a windfall levy for rezoning land from rural to residential or industrial, as huge profits are made by landowners, and as a result of this rezoning, the enormous increase in value by the stroke of a pen from council should be shared with the community to build all the infrastructure our community needs, from roads to libraries. We thank you.
The Greens, being a party, we're organised. So Sydney has printed a paper. I have many of these here today. If you'd like to pick one up from me in the next few minutes, you're very welcome.
Thanks for the opportunity to present our platform tonight. Just to add to what my colleagues have said, is that we're going to work very hard on maintaining the tremendous biodiversity within this local government area, including ensuring that we have a strong koala plan of management. We ensure that our bushland areas are well protected and well resourced. They're a great asset in this local government area, and we want to ensure that they continue to be so. Thank you.
Thank you to the Greens. John Bailey.
What I'll talk about applies to the entire Hastings, but since we're here in the Camden Haven, I might concentrate on that a little bit. And I'm running on infrastructure, and you look through the Camden Haven, the road network, it's falling apart. The people I'm talking to, they want basic infrastructure. You go North Haven, Kew, Kendall, anywhere in the back streets of Laurieton, there's no footpaths. How about some curb and guttering? Our playing facilities for our kids, they're running out of room. They need expansion. If we didn't have brilliant community groups like the Beach to Beach, that's community infrastructure. They're getting it off the ground. Council needs to support this type of thing. We need to listen to the community, be part of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Hastings first.
So the Hastings First team, I guess in summary of what we've discussed tonight, are certainly keen on ensuring that what matters most in the Hastings and the Camden Haven is looked after by the new council. So we know that rates matter to everyone. Action and results matter. We haven't seen much of that in recent years. Affordable housing matters. Infrastructure matters, as we know. Sustainable development matters. Koalas matter. Economic development matters. Putting local business first matters. They talk about shop local, they promote that, but they don't do it themselves. Sporting facilities matter. Connected communities matter. We know you've been let down by a couple of councillors in the past, been elected, then disappeared and didn't help you out at all. And pedestrian access matters as well. I may not have mentioned earlier, because I was so focused on the team, I'm also running for mayor. So it's Nick Lipovac, the European version of Smith. So you'll see that on polling day on your ballot paper, Lipovac for mayor, but also my team, you'll see, for councillors, Lipovac, Fox, Lenord, Clark and Hardy. And you might say, well, why me? Well, I've got a lot of, through my media connections, through my credit union work, a lot of business, sporting and community contacts. Why do I think I'd make a good leader? Well, I think I've always been that way. I've always stood forward when anyone else is looking at their toes and kicking rocks. I've always stepped up to do the job. from school captain to go into sporting teams. Leading a cricket team with my son alongside me to win a premiership was fantastic. As a coach, as a manager, as a selector, moving into business, a couple of business awards, sporting volunteer of the year, because I go the extra mile. I do the hard work, I do the long hours, and I get the results, which is why I think now I can move into leading a board of directors known as council. Okay, get the political stuff out of it. We're talking about a group of people trying to decide what's best for our local community and putting it into action, getting things done. So we're all about unity, transparency, getting things done. So it's Lipovac, write that down, Lipovac, really easy. Fox, Lenord, Clark and Hardy. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you, Nate. Fighters for our region.
Intamin, also European. Note the name, Team Intamin. And Intamin for Mayor. Our group are 5 individuals, 5 independent thinkers. We've already had our Barneys together in terms of having differences of opinion. We've worked out how we're going to work together in order to have those differences of opinion, have robust debates and discuss and come out with the best answer for the community. One of the important things that it's important to know, the questions we get here and from this forum and from every community forum I've ever been to is about coming from the community point of view and what do people in the community want. The unfortunate part about it is that this is that's somebody doing something dreadful. The problem is that developers have too much of the control in it. Thanks very much, Mert. Developers have too much control in this, and so one of the things that we are very passionate and determined about is to make sure that we get the story, we get the master plans right, the LEPs right, the development plans right, so that when developers come to this area, they come here on our terms. They do not come with an 8-storey building proposed on a 5-storey block. They do not come asking to go boundary to boundary on their developable land and basically get to a point where we've got eaves overhanging boundary fences. Council must be open, honest, detailed in their, don't know what's going on, detailed in what their set out plans are, so that council can be very specific in what they say to developers and what they can do when they come here. And the other side of it, of course, is what we do with their developer contributions. I am extremely passionate about making council the example of good government that we can have, and my team are united in that desire. Thank you. No, thank you for that task.
Thank you, Lisa. Stephen Gates.
Thank you, lucky last. I won't take very long. While we're talking about the subject of a name to remember or something like that, Gates. So if you pick your phone up and think of Apple and then think of me as running for mayor. Oh, you know how it is. Think of me, the person that blew that statement. Another one that can stick to you. I've done a lot of expeditions in my life. One of the very few Australians to ever row a boat from New Zealand back to Australia. A lot of people know me from that. Well, I've seen my face. I led that crew. I came up with the expedition. And then the following year, I walked 1,150 kilometres from the edge of Antarctica to the South Pole over 53 days. I have enormous stamina and a capacity to just focus and zero in and get stuff done. If you ever want to take people with you in the hardest climate, and we can talk about council and getting councils to agree, go on an expedition with 4 people for 30 days in a 30-foot rowing boat. Really tough. Look, one of the things we got coming out, I spent 3 years researching council. We're putting a 15-episode podcast out that will be exposing what council have been doing or not doing. It will go to issues of why the roads have failed, why we've got a $200 million plus debt burden that you really need to be conscious of because it will increase your rates, and what we need to do to stop it. I won't take any more of your time. My great thanks for you all tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that nearly concludes the evening there. I'd just like to say a great thank you to everyone for attending today and your time and answering the questions. It's really great for the local community that everyone can find time to be here. As this is for the local community, I have had a last minute request by John Saunders from the Chamber of Commerce just to make a quick 2-minute statement. So John, you two will be on the timer. So you have 2 minutes. All right.
Sorry, did you say 10 or 2?
Started now, so it's 1 minute.
Okay.
You just stand in front of the computer just so people at home can see.
A couple of thank yous. Firstly to, and I'm not sure if I get the name right, what's the name of your committee?
Hastings Residents Association.
Hastings
Residents
Association for putting on tonight's event. They've also done one in Port and one in Warhope, and are you doing one in Lake Cadai? What date's that?
3 weeks, just before the election.
At the community centre there in Lake Cadai? Okay. Because I know there's a lot of people in Lake Cadai very concerned about the state of the lake, and I know that they'll be wanting to have their say there. I really want to thank, I look around here, I spent 5 years on Council's Economic Development Committee and past President of the Chamber for, 10, 15 years. And I spent a lot of time with the Council on economic development. My biggest disappointment with the Council is we seem to have a talk fest, and you go back 2 years later and they'd relive what we discussed 2 years ago. They never seemed to be able to get to a conclusion, and I think that was my biggest disappointment. The other disappointment I had is the port-centric nature of the Council and the Council staff. Many times I had to thump the table because they put the Camden Haven as just that little fishing village down the road that people went for a drive on the weekends. We are not a little fishing village. We are a thriving community and we deserve to be heard. You heard Jenny, we've got dangerous roads over in the Boulevard and Camden Head Road now where kids are being run off. If you're on a gopher, you cannot drive on that road. There are sections of that road. It's extremely important that we get that beach-to-beach pathway finished. From a safety point of view, I do not want to be ringing the council up and saying there was an accident on Camden Head Road this morning because a kid or an elderly bloke got knocked off a gopher. And I tell you, I know we're only part of a big LGA, but the council really needs to have a look at the safety aspects of what's going on at Dunbogan. There's a huge amount of new development going on over there. The traffic's exponential growth in traffic, and the council are doing SFA about the roads over there. So my challenge to all the candidates here tonight, and it's great to see so many new candidates. The only one I've done battle with is Lisa, and we've been doing that for years. But you've got a great new group. Most of the existing councillors have resigned. And so here's the opportunity, guys. Vote for the people that are going to do the best they can for the Camden Haven. And if they're port-centric, forget them. Thank you very much for coming.
Sorry? I'll look for his name in the next one.
I was going to be a candidate, but I'm not.
Well, thank you very much for that, John. I think those sentiments definitely echo the sentiments of many local residents here that this area, this region down here is important. And I think we get that feeling definitely. So thank you very much, John, and I appreciate that. And once again, thank you to everyone for attending tonight, and then we'll just conclude the evening there. Thank you.